training with Rickson Gracie back in '93, 20 years ago. So while I have him here, I gotta ask him, what was one of the most pungent memories you have from training back in the day when no one knew jiu-jitsu? And arguably, you were one of a handful of people in America that were even entertaining the thought, that even knew what it was like. Probably when that article came out in Playboy magazine about the $100,000 challenge. What was it like training with Rickson? Give me one of your most pungent memories from back in the day.
It was similar to what you said earlier, which is basically, I mean, I was already a martial artist for at this point now, over 35 years, so of different arts, black belt in many arts. So I always thought of myself as being a very, very good fighter and very kind of hard to beat, you know, my cocky young self. And I think going into there once again was training with not knowing much about the specific art of jiu-jitsu. I had been training with Jim LaBelle for quite a long time. So I already knew submission, and I understood that game. But you know, as everyone knows who's in a jiu-jitsu game, is the getting from one position to the next position is really
the transitions.
That's really the beauty to me of the art of jiu-jitsu. I mean, a lot of arts have great submission, but jiu-jitsu has a very special way of putting it all together. As Eddie was showing earlier, I mean, it's very, very scientific, just from this position to this position before the submission. So when I went to the class and I, you know, went out there and I was getting caught by guys that, first of all, weren't as athletic as I am. Second of all, I knew they weren't as tough as I am, but they're still catching me in moves that I was like, how are you getting there? I really knew right away that is what I had to stick to.
You know, it's funny you mention that, because I mean, to me as well, the magic is not in the submission. You know, when somebody walks in the door, I can show them Americana from the mount. They're never going to be able to pull it off until they can positionally dominate their opponent, until they can actually study one area of martial arts, one area of fighting, and get so good at it, that's all they really need to know, as long as they can steer the fight to that one area. And that's what was just an epiphany to me. It wasn't the actual, I can show you a rear naked choke. It's how to take somebody to the ground and effectively, harmlessly get yourself to the back to actually then apply the rear naked choke. That's where the magic lies. And I know Rickson blew my mind when I first showed up there, but it must have been amazing to see it in '93, because in '93, when no one knew it, it certainly must have been like carrying a weapon that no one could combat.
Both I and Henry were there when it was like, they're going to have this new thing on TV called the UFC, and we're at the school of training.
Henry Akins as well. Started training with Rickson Gracie in '96?
95.
95, maybe
so
2 years.
John was almost a purple belt at the time that I first started. He was one of the guys that I kind of looked up to, and you know, he was one of my seniors. And
look at him now.
So
so it was a really great time for all of us, and it was definitely an eye-opening experience. And all the martial arts that I had been through over the years, it was where I stopped. And that's like everything else was important to me. I think that's why I was a good fighter, because I had so much eclectic information over the years. But that's where I say, people say, what do you teach? I say, it was on jiu-jitsu. No matter what, all the things I've studied, that's the thing that I feel confident that I can show anybody and they can have some success in it.
That's the catalyst to all of your martial arts. That's what brings it all together. It's a safety net. That's
One thing
what I find as well.
Yes, you as well. When you were talking about the transition earlier, it's important too. A lot of people who are newer in the game, when they go home and they learn a new move, a submission or armbar, what usually happens is they'll try it on their boyfriend or whatever, and they'll totally mess it up, and it won't work, and they'll get discouraged. Don't get discouraged, because what it really is the art of that flow between it. And when you first learn a technique in class and you're new to you and you haven't mastered that flow yet, it's easy to, not easy, but it's more difficult to, I mean, I'm sorry, how do I say it? It's not as impossible for someone to stop it. But when you start understanding that flow and you get better and better at it, it'll really change. So just stick tough with it, stick strong with it, because once that flow comes together and you figure out how to get from one place to another and answer those scary gray area questions in your flow, it'll totally change for you.
That's very true, and you know, one of my training partners, and again, my first instructor at the Rickson Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Academy, now the owner of Dynamics MMA. So if you want to check out him, any further information, dynamicsmma.com, Henry Akins. But I mean, he's the leader in that area for me. Coming up through him, some of the most fundamental elements of jiu-jitsu, a rear naked choke, a guillotine, or whatever, it's something that you can actually apply in your boyfriend, your girlfriend, you go home and you don't do it right. But there's so many little nuances of the position. 2 millimeters of your hip movement, the way that you grip your wrist, so many things that either make the submission work or make it not work, they're crucial. And you only get that with mat hours. And some of the fundamental elements that people might discard because they think, oh, it's easy, it's basic, I learned that on day one. Well, they really haven't taken the time to finesse it and learn it properly, to where you can hit it with a high level of success on just about any opponent. And that's something that your game, and it's always blown my mind. Henry can take the most fundamental element of jiu-jitsu and teach me something that I thought I knew from day one. I remember I did a seminar with Rickson Gracie. He did 2 3-hour seminars on a Saturday, and you were there as well, on the bridge. And I went to the first 3-hour seminar, and it was on the bridge. 3 hours on the bridge, and I thought, you know, I'm a white belt at the time. What did I know? And I thought, I know the bridge. I warm up with the bridge every time. I know the bridge. And then I said, well, so, and I signed up for both seminars. I said, what's the second seminar going to be? Henry said, oh, it's on the bridge as well. I said, what am I doing? I need to leave. Lo and behold, it took me like 4 of those seminars to realize, wow, I don't know the bridge. And the bridge is such a crucial part of jiu-jitsu, just like the hip escape. And those are these little elements that you warm up with. But when it comes time to learn a position that involves a fundamental hip escape, if you don't have that in your back pocket, you can execute it fundamentally correctly with all the leverage and the strength and the power of doing it fundamentally correctly, the whole position's going to watch. And that's what makes you discard those fundamental positions, because you don't have those basic elements. I remember I did 4 of those bridge seminars before I realized, okay, I'm not doing the bridge correct. So then the bump and roll, suddenly when I learned the bridge correct, the bump and roll is the highest probability sweep from when you're mounted. If you don't know the bridge properly, yes, it's not a very effective escape from the mount, but that always blew my mind with his game. Such a fun, I envy you. I would have loved to have been there in '93. I always kick myself for getting into the game too late, but you know.
Never too late.
Yeah, I know, and I'm learning from you guys ever since. But anyway, thank you very much, guys. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have these guys. Guys, we've got a couple more people coming up. And we're going to save Henry Akins for last. He's going to show some fundamental elements of jiu-jitsu. Now, it's my pleasure to present another one of my training partners. I think he won Grappler's Quest like 786, I don't know, it's a lewd amount of times. He won just about pretty much everything, 156 times. His name is Jeff Glover in the house. Big round of applause for Jeff Glover. The floor is yours, sir. Take it away.
Alright, so I do a lot of moves from side control, okay? So what will happen is the guy's going to hold me down here in side control. Okay, first of all, notice my right hand's on his throat here, okay, and my left hand is in here kind of resting on his hip with my forearm. Okay, that way this hand can go here, okay, or it can go here easily. Okay, you're going to need this hand to defend. This hand will do a couple things. It'll defend the mount. If he tries to go knee belly and I have my hand here, I can press my forearm across his knee there, and he can't put it up on me. Okay, I can even catch half guard off that shit. Oh, sorry. Say a bad word. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, side control, I'm going to press on his forearm, on his throat there, so that this arm can come through and I start to turn my back to the guy. Okay, at this point, my left foot here is going to reach back and hook the top of Leo's ankle there. Okay, now what's going to happen is going to make him real uncomfortable when I start to pull this. And we're going to roll, and I land right into a knee bar, toe hold. You can even switch it to a heel hook. Boom, because I love heel hooks. Okay, one more time. So come on this side. Side control. Okay, notice again my arms. I'm not doing this. Okay, this is a big mistake I used to make as a beginner. I would do this all the time and leave my arms trying to hug the guy and bridge him over. Okay, get these on the inside. Okay, this left hand makes space for this right hand. Okay, now I start to turn my back to him just a little bit. I scoop my hips into him here so my right leg can reach over the top and catch his ankle there. Okay, now I'm going to start to pull this. Look what it does to his knee. Right, this is really cranking his knee. So he's going to have to roll, at which point I follow through. That knee bar is right there in your lap. Boom, you can go toe hold. Boom, you can switch hips out and find your inward heel hook. Boom. Okay, one more time, I'll do it a couple times. Try it on this side, yeah, that's fine. Turn your back so you can see my footwork here. Boom, boom. That part right there. Once I hook this ankle here, I start to crank on this, look at it. Flips him right over. Okay. Side control isn't as bad of a spot as you're led to believe, okay? Okay, another one I like to do, same idea. Okay, I'm going to push on his throat so this arm can come through. I'm turning my back to him. At this point, once my arm comes through here, I'm going to reach around back here and put in this whizzer. Okay, I start to put your hand where it was. Right there, your hand was here. Okay, I put this whizzer in. Okay, now when I start walking my hips out, it puts his arm in an Americana. I dig my whizzer in and I start turning here. And it hurts his arm. He can't raise his right arm up anymore. Okay, he can't get control of my upper body. I'm going to keep moving until I have my darts. I flatten them out. Boom. If you guys are doing gi, you can do the sleeve darts. A lot of times you can't, all that material gets in the way. You can't grab your bicep. Go into your sleeve like an Ezekiel choke. Throw it up on there. You get the same effect. Okay. I developed these moves, by the way, because there was a time when I was training and I injured my knee. And I didn't really have a guard. I couldn't really keep guys in my guard to try to do moves from my guard. So guys were passing my guard, and I kind of developed these moves that way. Injuries oftentimes have led me to other parts of my game that I didn't know I could have. okay? But you gotta be smart and careful how you train when you're injured, obviously. Okay, so again, look, 2 options here. First, we gotta turn our back to the guy. That's the setup for the 2 moves, okay? The first one, super easy, knee bar, okay? The other one is the darce. So again, boom, knee bars right there, whizzer, spin. Look at that. Boom. And now here, this darce isn't perfect. I'm gonna have to make a few adjustments here. I just got the position. I still have to like worm it into place. That's a good darce right there. Okay, now I squeeze and it doesn't take muscle. It's just a little bit of leverage. And he's tapping. Wow, this gi is hot, man. I'm gonna take this gi off. Oh, this gi's tough. Okay. Last technique I'll show here. Okay. One of my favorites. Especially for no gi. I love doing no gi. Okay, let me have your back here. Okay, I'm bringing back the back. Okay, I'm gonna make it cool to be on the guy's back again. Okay, this is a technique I learned from a little kid who was 7 years old, put me in a move, I couldn't get out of it. I had to bend his little finger to get out of it, showed me it was effective.
Was that night before Christmas? And on to the house.
Not this guy.
Not a crease was stirred. Except for a lot of guys, black belts, try to do a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu seminar with no Brazilian people here. And you have that guy dressed like Theo Huxtable. He had some kind of shirt that his mom was giving him, a sweater. And it looked like a Long John's Silvers, like that, but it's green. And you choke that Mexican guy, anyone can do that. And you have some ugly lime green stuff. Get out of here, do yourself a favor and beat it. Because now it's my time. You know, a lot of guys, you have a lot of martial artists here today. And a lot of guys, a lot of martial artists is good martial artists. Hey, fuck, alright. You're not gonna do. You see what you did?
Somebody come help me.
Get off my stuff.
Somebody come here, hook his other leg. Somebody come here, hook his other leg. We need to control this guy. Get that leg. Heel hook it. Get him in the heel hook. It's a great move.
It's take 3-on-1 to beat me, and they still not gonna beat. Because you gotta see, there's
Guys,
a lot of good.
Apologize for that. We didn't know that to let him in. If you guys could just drag him out of the background, please excuse that. We didn't know that. Drag him out. Thank you. Tape his mouth so it doesn't make any noise. Sorry about that, guys. We didn't know that was going to happen. I don't know how I went to the seminar. I apologize. Usually we have a closed door policy and we don't. Sorry about that. Jeff Glover. If there's anything you'd like to finish up with, sorry about that. I should have provided better security.
No, it's okay. I disrespected the Brazilians, and I took my gi off, and he had to step in and say something that was inappropriate. I don't know. Just I'm happy to be here, helping out with this charity and stuff, and sharing my jiu-jitsu with you guys. And I just want to send love and support to all the people affected by this. And yeah, that's it.
Jeff Glover, ladies and gentlemen, and for those of you who don't know, that was a 27-time Mundial champion that busted in here.
Renato Lorenzo, ladies and gentlemen.
Renato Lorenzo, I'm a big,
He's still here.
I'm not gonna do nothing to you because that's for that kids. And I want to say before, there's a lot of good martial artists here, okay? But Renato Laranja is the best. And I bought an outfit today that costs a lot of money today. So I'm gonna teach some stuff. Nobody wanna see that guy is Eddie Bravo nobody wanna see him do that twist.
Twister, yes.
That was already invented by Chubby Checker back in 1955. I don't wanna see that twist.
I know, that one's a song.
It don't matter, that's neither here nor there. Por caralho. That guy was also do that he make with the Fat Boys, where they do a Chubby Checker and do that twist with the Fat Boys.
Yeah, he might have made a submission.
So now, you guys got a lot of guys doing some no-gi stuff. You have, the only guy can respect here is John Lewis and your boy, Henry Aiken, because they come from the old school. All that other stuff, I don't know about that. And maybe Gazi, but she did the Gazinator. I want you to show me that one back to your hotel room later on. Because that's better, you be on your back, and you have a nice shape, a nice figure. That's like my style.
Would you have some techniques you'd like
I'm gonna show one technique, but where's that guy, Anthony Harjonki? He left. That guy is scared from me. Even though he can do some side kick, he don't wanna get too choked from me. But I'm gonna show that choke that I was put your boy out, Edge Bravo.
Eddie
one.
Bravo, yes.
He already left here because he knew I was coming.
You put him.
I put out Edge Bravo with that choke. I'm gonna show you the North Style choke. I do it the best in the world. Who among you is not afraid to get choked from me? If you want to do it.
Do we have a volunteer for the Felicia? Please. Felicia, ladies and gentlemen, help yourself. If you'd like to show a nice north and south choke for you guys, take it away.
I'm gonna do it on you. I hope you don't. You're okay. You're a woman, so I don't wanna. You do some martial arts too?
I do a little bit.
Oh, that's cute. Here, you're gonna lay down. You're gonna lay down on your back. But I don't want to hurt you. Those Oriental women look very nice and very dainty like that. So, yeah, you're laying down at the beach, or you can be laying down at my condo, and we listen to some HMD. So, I'm gonna have you here. I'm gonna lay down flat like that, but I'm gonna put my hip bone to the face to turn like that. I have you here. Now, the first thing she's gonna do, she's gonna try to prevent me to get the headlock here. So she's gonna try to put there. So I'm gonna come down with my elbow here. I'm gonna pin that. Then I'm gonna grab the wrist right there. Then I'm gonna slide down. Boom. Now the mistake most people make, and probably Eddie Bravo make this mistake, is he put his chest to the chest and try to muscle like that. Like that when he was do that choke to Hoyler. He like that. Then he was cry afterward. Because he's never had success before that and after that. Because he's like Buster Douglas. What caralho. So I have here. Then I'm gonna put my chest to the ground. Then I'm gonna turn my head here. And all I gotta do, some people try to do like that. I'm just gonna make like a muscle like Popeye. And she's choked like that. Look, she almost went to sleep here. So again, I'm come here. I'm gonna push her face because the way a lot of people wanna stop is they wanna turn the face toward you. Okay? I know you wanna look at me because I'm gorgeous, because I have combination skin. I look like
Oily and dry.
And more oily than anything, but it's look like Egyptian cinnamon. It's very beautiful, but don't get caught up in that. So I have you here. I'm turning your face. So you can't turn, don't do that stuff. While you wanna do that, I'm gonna come here, boom. And then I come here, here, like that, okay? So if I wanna make worse for her, I'm gonna put my lat like that, kick my right leg out here, and then I'm gonna come, see already, tap before I can get like that. How you gonna do better than that? You're not gonna do better than that, because I'm the best. And I'm gonna give her a break. And you can, I'm not gonna show it 10 times, you can rewind the tape if you wanna rewind that. But for now, I'm gonna take you out. We're gonna get something to drink, and you're gonna leave your black boyfriend. Oh no, that's the other one. Who's that, Cindy? Any black boyfriend?
That's the other one.
Yeah, that guy looked like, it was that guy, I can't remember, the guy who direct New Jack City. That guy, he looked like Mario Van Peebles III, but I don't worry about that guy. So to all you people who was affected by this disaster, finally you can see a heel black belt. You can have some heel techniques, and I'm sorry that you was subject to these losers who was trying to show you some stuff that may or may not work. But I wish you peace, and also por caralho.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Renato Laranja. He's a 27-time world champion, mundial champion. It's very rare that you get to see a belt like that with that many stripes on it. So I don't know if you want to get a close-up shot of that, but you guys just want to take that outside.
Okay, we're gonna go now.
Thank you. Renato Laranja, ladies and gentlemen. Big hand. Now, guys, before we bring out Henry Akins, who's my instructor, he's also got his partner here, Anthony Hardon. He's a UFC fighter. He's a K1 fighter. One of the most decorated strikers on the planet Earth. Together, they have Dynamics MMA. That's their academy, just very close to Santa Monica, on Santa Monica Boulevard. It's dynamicsmma.com, so check that out. So before we bring them out, I'll show you guys a couple of positions that I happen to like. So let's see. Could Mr. Lewis, John Lewis, could I borrow you real quick? A couple of positions for the closed guard that I like. couple positions that I like. So from the closed guard, this position. A lot of times, first of all, before I can start attacking my opponent, I need to be able to control my opponent's posture. Before he can start passing, he needs to establish a posture. So one of the things that I like to do, if my opponent has posture, I like to reverse engineer it. I can either, to beat the center line, his arm across my center line, I can do one of two things. I can move his arm across my center line, or I can lock his arm in place and move my body around his arm. Because there's two ways to achieve this. So the first thing that I like to do is a pocket grip on the sleeve. Straight down in a pocket grip. The second grip I usually like to go under this hand, but in this case I can go over, and I'm going to overhook his elbow. The second foot, this leg is going to come up, and I'm going to put this foot right on his hip. I'm going to engage my hips, and I'm going to take this ledge away. He's got a frame on my chest right here that's going right into my chest. Now, if I can either move the arm, or I can take this plateau, this tabletop, and I can put it parallel to his arms, and he no longer has a frame, which is what I'm going to do to start to manipulate this arm and how it relates to my body. So I have a pocket grip, and I have an over. I'm looking for the two knuckles on the elbow. The second move is my right foot is going to go to his left hip, here. So this is my grip, here. Now I'm going to take this ledge away, this way. Now, I'm not going to move the arm, but I'm going to hip escape all the way to the side. At the same time I hip escape, my right hand is going to look for his lat. So I hip escape, and I look for his lat right here. This clamping leg is very tight. Now I need to keep my chest glued to his elbow so he can't meet this. Now the first thing that I like to do is attack an arm lock. Now, usually from the closed guard, it's very easy to stack your opponent. That's why I happen to like this arm lock. From here, I'm going to withdraw my arm, and I'm going to place it over his arm. Now the second thing, I have a gable grip. Now I'm going to start to turn the corner. I'm going to start to bring this ear close to this knee, turning the corner. I'm going to push his face away. I'm going to finish my arm lock here. Now, even if he's stacking me, how do I finish this? I'm simply going to bring this elbow to the same side hip, here, for my finish. So it's a wonderful arm lock, even when your opponent's stacking you. If I don't have it under my armpit and he stacks me, I need to find a way to free this arm from its defensive limb. What I like to do in all of my arm lock attacks is I like to start attacking the arm once it's free of its defensive arm, and the last thing I do is put the leg over the head. Instead, a lot of times you see people put the leg over the head, then they start trying to unwind the hand and get it away from its defensive arm. So first of all, pocket grip, over on the elbow, my foot's going to the hip, very tight knee. I'm going to engage my hip straight up to take the plateau away. Now I'm going to hip escape. At the same time, I'm going to let go of the pocket grip, and this hand's going to look for his to reverse the position top to bottom. So I have a pocket grip. I have his elbow. Foot on the hip, knee is very tight. Take the plateau away. Hip escape to the side. I'm immediately grabbing the lat here. Now, in the process, I can hunt for this arm lock, or I can not hunt for this arm lock. This hand is going to go under, and I'm going to underhook this knee. I'm going to try and bring my ear as close to that knee as is possible. This clamp leg is going to be very high, and the magic to this is I'm not trying to drive him to his left. I'm trying to drive him straight over my head. And he becomes very, very light in the sweep. And I can reverse it top to bottom. Now for the fourth thing, let's look at what happens if he bases out to prevent this sweep. I have my pocket grip. I have his elbow control. Put my foot on the hip, and I'm going to take this plateau away. Up to the side, and I have his lat. This clamp leg, again, is very, very tight. Now, if I go to underhook this leg, what's preventing him from going this direction? He has two forms of base. He has an arm, and he has this side leg. This arm is being trapped. So if I try to sweep him this direction, he posts that leg up. Now, anytime he posts this leg up, my next option is I'm going to be underneath both arms. Now I'm going to look to turn the corner. I'm sweeping in this direction, and he has a base out. He can't base out with this arm. So now I'm under both arms. This arm is completely out of harm's way. Doesn't feel like it's under attack at all. As soon as I get under the arm, I'm going to turn the corner with my leg work, underhook the leg, sweep for an arm lock on the near side. Once again, guys, I have a pocket grip. I have elbow control. Foot goes on the hip, my knee is very tight, I'm taking the plateau away, and I'm going to hip escape away while this hand's going to grab the left. Clamping leg is very tight. Immediately go under the armpit, gable grip, head away, and I'm looking for this arm lock. Even if he stacks me, thighs are very tight, I'm just going to bring this elbow to the hip for my finish. From the same position, if he bends the arm, and I can't put this under the armpit, then I'm going to change direction with my leg work, and I'm going to grab my own shin. Here. This hand is coming straight under his jaw to his wrist, and I'm going to bring his wrist straight to my right breast while I engage my hips for this shoulder lock. The third situation, I'm going to try and reverse the position. If I can't get an arm lock and I can't get the shoulder crank, reverse the position. Foot on the hip, take the plateau away, hip escape away, I grab the lat. If it's too difficult, he's driving into me, which prevents me from getting under here or grabbing my shin, bringing my ear to his knee, and I'm going to take him that direction. What prevents him from using this base is because I'm not taking him to his left. I'm taking him straight over his head. If I try and sweep him this direction, that leg prevents it. But if I take him straight over my head, it's a very easy reversal. Now let's look at what happens if I don't have that effective reversal and he can post out with his leg. Pocket grip, overhook on the elbow. Foot on the hip, take the plateau away, move my hips out and around the arm. Grab his lat, I'm staying very, very tight to his elbow. Under the leg, I'm trying to bring my ear very close and he's basing out. Now, I need to get under this arm. This is the arm I'm attacking. It doesn't seem like it's possible. This is the one that he's afraid of. So it's very easy for me to underhook that arm. I'm going from the leg to underhooking the arm. Now I'm going to use my leg work to steer me very close to this. This is a clamp. I'm going to change and make this my clamp leg. And watch what it does to my head. My head's going to go 90 degrees to his body. This way. Now look at my arm lock. It's very easy here. And a reversal. So we have 4 options from the closed guard. They're all very basic and fundamental. I'm sure you saw them 20 years ago. But I love that series. It's being a smaller guy, I end up being on the bottom. So closed guard is one of my fundamental elements of my game. But it was a pleasure to be able to demo on you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, guys, I'd like to bring out a guy that taught me my first lesson in jiu-jitsu. I think he's one of the best instructors on the planet Earth. And his partner in crime that does the stand-up, they've got a pretty amazing system that ties it in from feet to floor. A lot of people talk about mixed martial arts, and it is just that. It's mixed. Their system is not a mixed martial art. It's one system from striking to closing the distance to clinching to taking it to the ground very safely and submitting your opponent, but it's all one fluid style. It's an honor for me to present one of the best strikers on the planet Earth and the best instructor I've ever seen in the stand-up game, Anthony Hardunk. Thank you very much, sir, for being here.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you very much. Website is dynamicsmma.com. This is where it starts off with the striking. Now I'd like to introduce the first instructor I ever had on the ground, Rickson Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and in my opinion, the best instructor on the face of the earth. And I don't say that because he's here. It's true, and I can honestly say that Henry Akins as an instructor, he's the only instructor I've ever come across in which every single element of jiu-jitsu he's taught to me is still in my game. There's absolutely nothing I've discarded. So again, my first instructor, it's a pleasure for me to bring him here, Henry Akins. Thank you very much, guys. I will leave the floor to them. Guys, for any more information or questions, dynamicsmma.com. Take it away, guys.
Hey guys, I'm going to start. I grew up in the Netherlands and being around by kickboxing, and that's how I started. But already soon I fell in love with all the other martial arts. And then I discovered jiu-jitsu, fell in love with jiu-jitsu, started traveling, and that's how I met Henry. And then Henry became my jiu-jitsu instructor. And I'm still practicing, still learning. But there's some elements I think that my background I can help with. Because jiu-jitsu is great on the ground, but sometimes it's hard to get there. And even in professional fighters, sometimes you see that they get in trouble closing the distance, taking the fight to the ground. And even some great wrestlers, they have great takedowns, but they don't know how to translate that when they're striking a fight. And that's something I wanna show some little things. It's not really technique, it's more concept. and it all starts with distance control. If I'm in a fight and I want to take the fight to the ground, let's go from this angle. I have to approach an opponent who is ready to maybe punch me in the face or kick or knee or whatever. And I don't want to just step into him and maybe get hit and hurt. So it all starts with distance control. Distance control is movement. So I always start moving. I just start moving. When I move back, he maybe feels an opportunity to strike. And when I move in, maybe he feels pressure. But I always start moving. From here, I can maybe set him up. And if I time it right, I can come in and close the distance. Now, if I start moving, one thing that's very important is contact. At one point, I want to make contact. But even when I make contact, he can still keep his hands on the inside and maybe push me off or keep me away or strike or whatever. So from here, if I just start grappling, I'm still in a lot of danger. And it's still possible to get hit. I don't want to get hit. So what I do from here, I start moving. Once I time coming in, from here, maybe the best thing to do is first throw a knee. Boom. Now he's worried about my knee, and from here I can come in and grab him. What I don't want to do is come in and start swinging, because if I'm dealing with a boxer, I don't want to box with a boxer. I don't want to get hit. I don't want to get caught in an exchange. Yeah? So therefore, I start with the distance control. I start moving. Maybe he follows me, maybe not, maybe he's waiting. Boom. When I come in, after contact, first use a knee. I can use a rear leg knee, front leg, boom, close the distance. Strike and then get a grip. Now with this, maybe he's not going to just wait and not just going to stand there. Maybe he's going to try to strike. Yeah, I'm moving. Maybe he's trying to follow me, and maybe he's going to try to swing. Maybe throw a punch. Maybe a jab. Yeah, or maybe a cross. Maybe a hook. And then from there, I can counter. What better opportunity of closing the distance when he is coming towards me? Yeah. So for instance, if I come in, yeah, and he strikes with the jab, I can defend, throw the knee, now get the grip. Same with the cross. Yeah, I start moving. At one point, he sees the opportunity to throw. Now he throws, I counter, and I get a grip. Now, I don't know what he is going to do, but once I start moving with the distance control, I kind of can feel when he's going to throw. So that helps my timing. If I'm standing still and I let him get comfortable, I have no idea when he's going to throw. But if I'm controlling the distance, I know when I'm in his reach. And then when he throws, it's easy to counter, maybe create some danger with the knee and get a grip. Same with the hooks. I can move. At one point he's going to throw a hook. Maybe I can block the hook here. Also, I like to keep some control. I can grab behind the neck. Yeah, strike first. Now he's worried about my knee. Get a grip. Yeah, again, maybe the rear hand. I'm moving. Yeah, at one point he sees an opportunity. He throws. Of course, I block the hook. My other hand goes behind the neck, so I have some control. I can strike first, and now come in and get a grip. Yeah, so it's more what I said, more a concept of moving, using distance control, and then as soon as you make contact, try to throw a knee or something. The moment you hit people, yeah, they're worried about a knee, or even if you don't hit them, maybe they're defending. Now their hands are worried about defense. And that's the great opportunity, a great opportunity to get a good grip. And then I'll leave it from there to Henry.
Can I get Sean out here to help me demonstrate?
Yes, sir. Guys, that was Anthony Hardock. It's a pleasure to have him in the building. He's one of the most respected strikers on the globe. And he happens to be teaching with Henry right near Santa Monica, about 3 miles as the crow flies at dynamicsmma.com. So for any further questions or information on his striking style, classes, privates, dynamicsmma.com. Henry Akins, floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, guys, it's very, very important to understand the stand-up aspect of fighting and combat. Every situation you get into will always start from the stand-up. So that's one of the main things I always focus on. These stand-up parts of jiu-jitsu are just as important as the ground techniques. If you can't take your opponent to the ground, then you can't implement your jiu-jitsu. Okay, so just the idea, the concept of knowing how to close the distance and clinch safely is very, very important so that you don't take a hit, because one hit, one punch, maybe it doesn't knock you out, but it can change the whole fight. If you get hit in the nose, you get hit in the jaw, maybe you're dizzy, you get hit in the nose, you break your nose, it makes it hard to breathe. So understanding how to close the distance, how to control the distance so you're safe when you're in danger and when you're out of danger, and how to close is really, really important. Now once you close the distance, you have to understand how to take your opponent down to the ground. So that's what we're going to start off with, is just a very, very simple takedown. And the takedown we're going to go for is just from a regular clinch. So if me and Sean are pummeled in, normally guys are always trying to pummel in and get two hands inside. Now if I get double underhooks, I have a lot of control of his posture, I have a lot of control, so I have the advantage in that situation with double unders. Okay? But a lot of times it's a big struggle. It's a big struggle to get both arms inside. So once I'm here, now what we're going to do is just a very, very simple takedown. Okay? So first thing I want to do is I want to glue his arm to my body. So my hand is going to be here. I'm gluing his elbow to my chest so it's hard for him to pull his arm away. Now what I'm going to do is my hand comes underneath, and I'm just going to put my hand here blocking his knee. Okay? So even if he's got control of my hand here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn my thumb down so it bends, right? So I'm going to turn my thumb down, and I'm just going to put my hand here on the outside of his knee. Now I'm going to take a big step back with my rear leg, and keeping everything connected, all I'm going to do is make him fall. Okay? So I'm basically, it's like a trick with the hand. So I can do it this side. What you're going to see is my hand comes underneath, it comes here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to block the outside of his knee. I'm keeping all of my weight on his leg. So basically what I'm doing is I'm kind of leaning on his leg, so it makes it hard for him to step back. If I don't put weight on his leg, he can step his leg back, right? Step your leg back, good. And then I can go for some other throws because he's off balance, he's leaning forward. But the idea is I want him to plant his foot. So already I'm kind of putting my weight, I'm kind of bending my knees and putting all my weight on his leg. So now pull your leg off. Hard, right? Yeah. So it's a very, very simple trick, very easy takedown. And this, you don't need the gi for this. Most of the jiu-jitsu that I do doesn't require the gi, works gi and no gi. And that's the concept of jiu-jitsu. It has to be effective for a real life situation, right? So just from this side, one more time, I'm here. I'm going to bring my hand underneath, and now I'm just going to put my hand on the outside of his knee. Okay? I want to step back with this leg, and what I'm doing is, as I step, I'm going to open my chest. So I'm going to open my body. Okay? So as I step back, I'm going to open my chest, and here on the ground. Usually I will go to knee on belly. Okay? So one more time. So we're clinch. Hand comes inside, I'm going to block the knee. Step back with my leg, I'm keeping his arm glued tight to my chest, and as I step, I'm going to go here. Now, you see from this situation, I keep his arm under control. So I already have a good grip on his arm. From here, it's very, very easy to finish. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go for an arm lock. Once I end up with the knee on the belly, my hand is going to go here to brace his shoulder, and my second hand comes inside to grab my wrist. Once I have this, I want to make sure my arm is just below his elbow. So when I come in with my arm slides in just below his elbow. I want to keep my wrist tight. Now all I'm going to do is I start to curl my wrist. So there's very, very little movement needed to break this arm. As long as I'm keeping everything tight, tiny little movement, and his arm is already breaking. This side, so I'm here, I block his knee, I'm going to step back, make him fall, knee goes on the belly, and my head is up. I want to make sure that my head is up so that he can't hit me, right? Now what I'm going to do is my hand goes just underneath his shoulder. I want to kind of turn his shoulder to keep him from turning his hand in. So a lot of times what happens is, if he can turn his thumb down, I'm not going to have the arm lock. So what I do is I push up on his shoulder, and as my hand comes in, I turn my wrist. Even if his arm is turned, what will happen is it turns his arm out. So now I have a perfect angle. Keep my head up, I curl my wrist a little bit. So you can see I'm barely even moving, and he's already tapping. And if I need extra, I can put my hip in. Okay? So I'll do one more time from here. So good. So I'm already here, knee on the belly, hand comes in by the shoulder, and then my second hand comes inside and grabs my wrist. Okay? I want to keep my head up so I can't get hit, and now I'm just going to curl my wrist. So there's a lot of little details in all of these techniques that make it very, very effective. Just the curling of the wrist will tighten everything up to make it so that you don't need to put a lot of pressure. You don't have to use a lot of strength. And that's the real beauty of jiu-jitsu, is all these little details that are hidden or that you can't really see, that really have to be pointed out to you, that make jiu-jitsu magical. Lay down again, please. So, one of the little things here about this arm lock, when I go for it, is how I get him to turn his arm in the right place. What I want to do is I'm just going to push up on his shoulder. When you see pushing up on his shoulder, kind of turns his elbow in the right direction. And when my hand comes in, what I do is I turn my thumb. So this prevents him from being able to turn his thumb, turn his arm out. Because a lot of times you go for this, turn your arm out.
No.
There. Yeah, now you can turn it. But once I go here, there's no way to turn it. So what these little things do is, one, it reduces the amount of strength that you have to use for the technique, and also it makes it very difficult for him to defend or counter the technique once you start to apply it. And those things are all very important, because when you go for something, you don't want to waste your energy going for something and then losing it, right? Here, if he turns his arm out, now it becomes a struggle again. Now I have to maybe mount or do another 5-10 steps before I can finish, instead of just finishing it from here. Okay? So that's one of my favorite takedowns. It's a very, very easy one. And the thing is, from one arm, each of us have one arm in. There's a lot of different setups for that. So yeah, that's one of my favorite takedowns. Now what we're going to do is we're going to play with some stuff from the guard, the closed guard. The reason I picked kind of the closed guard today is because that's the position that really made jiu-jitsu famous. Once you get in a fight, once the fight gets to the ground, pretty much any time you end up on the bottom, you're losing the fight. So if I'm on the bottom and the guy's mounted on me, I'm losing. He has the ability to do damage, and I'm basically on defense, right? If I end up on the bottom of cross-side and he's on top, I'm susceptible to getting submitted and also probably be taking a lot of damage in a real fight, right? And he's not exposed to any danger at all. But the guard is the one position in jiu-jitsu where if you know what you're doing, if you're on the bottom, you can still win the fight, right? And that's what happens with most little people. Little guy ends up fighting a big guy. Where do they end up? Usually on the bottom. Okay, so this is kind of the position that made jiu-jitsu famous. So we're going to go over some of my favorite techniques from the closed guard, from the guard being on the bottom. Okay, so let's do this. First one we're going to go over, the first is just a very, very simple sweep. Everything that I do is very, very basic. It's very, very simple. It doesn't require a lot of movements, like 10 steps to do. And that's really important, because if something is broken down into 10 steps, if it takes you 10 steps to do anything, if the guy counters or if he moves or if he does something during those steps, it basically kills whatever movement you do. So everything I do is very, very basic, very, very simple, but there's a lot of little details that make everything effective. So the first thing we're going to go for is, you know, the knee behind the butt to break the legs. So before Sean can start to pass my guard, what he has to do is he has to open my legs. He has to break the guard, okay? And once he breaks the guard, so go ahead and break the guard. So the legs open. Now he has the ability to start to pass. Now my legs are open. He can move around. Before he opens my legs, there's no chance for him to pass, right? So one of the options that he has to open is to wedge a knee behind my butt. And most of you guys that have done jiu-jitsu have probably seen this in the first few weeks of training. Knee behind the butt, puts his other leg up, starts to put leverage to open the legs. Okay? So what I want to do is, anytime you guys tries to put a knee behind my butt, I never want to allow him to create leverage on me. Okay? So the first time he tries to go put his knee behind my butt, as he goes, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my hip back in. So if he goes to try to put leverage on my butt and go, try to break my legs, I just move my hip. All I'm doing is a little hip movement, okay, to basically stop him from creating leverage. So every time he tries to turn to the side and get my knee behind my butt, I just move my hip. All I'm doing is lifting my butt off the ground and moving my hip to the side, okay? So one more time, he goes to try to put his knee behind my butt. I just move my hip so that he can't put his knee behind my butt and create leverage to open my legs. Now, once he tries to do it again, now what I'm going to do is instead of moving it back to the inside, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my hip to the outside, okay? Keep control of his sleeve with my opposite hand, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my hand on the ground. So I can control either his sleeve or I can control his wrist somehow, but from here, try to get back up. I have all the advantage in being able to, as long as I can keep his hand under control and he can't base out, now all I'm going to do is engage my hip, okay? The reason I like this sweep so much is because you can do this sweep without having to open your legs. A lot of times, guys will go for sweeps, and they go for maybe a scissor sweep or whatever. Well, what happens is now your legs are open. And if you miss the sweep, what happens is now it gives your opponent the opportunity to try to pass, okay? So with this sweep, I don't risk anything. With this sweep, I don't have to open my legs. I don't have to give him that first step that he needs to be able to pass my guard, right? So there's a lot of strategy, a lot of philosophy, and a lot of concept in all these techniques that we're doing. But the idea is, from here, it's just hip movement, and I don't have to risk anything. If I just move my hip in, he tries to go again. Move my hip in, so I don't give him what he wants. And now when he tries to really put his knee in deep, now what I'm going to do is move my hip to the outside. Okay? I want to keep control of his hand with the opposite hand. So that way he can't base out, because try to get up. Now I'm just going to put my hand on the ground. So if he doesn't have this hand, there's no way he can base. And if I don't have the sleeve, I can control his wrist or control it here just by pushing into him, right? If I push my hand into him, he doesn't have any strength. Push his hand in, right? Yeah. And now all I'm going to do is lift my hip to come on top to the mount. Okay? Good. So a lot of how I teach is I like to talk a lot about the theory and the concepts and the philosophies of jiu-jitsu. And for you guys as students, it's very, very important for you guys to understand all these theories and concepts. It gives you a much better understanding of the art itself. The closed guard is actually a very, very powerful position. And the reason it's such a powerful position is because basically I have someone in between my legs. Instead of having a bear hug with my arms, it's a bear hug with my legs. And I have so much control of my opponent's posture and his balance from the closed guard. There's a lot of movements from the closed guard that I do that you can't really see, that you don't really, if you're watching, you won't really see, but make a huge difference in how my opponent reacts. So the next thing we're going to go for is a very, very simple arm lock from the guard. And everyone says, oh, arm lock from the guard, it's so difficult to do. I always get stacked, I always get smashed when I go for an arm lock from the guard. And that's because there's a lot of elements that people are missing, a lot of little details. I'm going to try to cover a lot of those details today and show you all the things that your opponent can do to counter or stop it, and how just little adjustments will change all those things. We'll make it so that the arm lock works now. So we're going to go here. So how most people teach the arm lock, how it's mostly shown is it's like a 4 or 5 step process. Normally, if I see someone teach the arm lock, they do a cross grip, put one foot on the hip, keeping the knee tight. This leg goes over. Sometimes they use the hand to block the face, and then the other leg comes over, and then you have the arm lock, right? So it's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have the arm lock. So that's a lot of steps. And of course, as you get faster, it becomes better. But the problem is, as soon as I grab his arm, he already knows what I'm going to do. And in this position, the guy on top actually has more leverage than me. He has more strength. So if I try to, if I try to pull his arm across, if he just postures up and pulls, I'm always going to lose the arm. Okay? So I never want to take what I want. I want to make him give me what I want. Okay? So from here, from inside the guard, I'm not going to try to take his arm. If I grab his arm, he's just going to pull his arm out. He already knows, arm lock's coming. The guy's going for my arm. So what I want to do is I want to use my legs. Okay? What I want to do is I'm going to pull him to me. Once I pull him to me, what happens is he wants to stop from falling. So what he's going to do is he's going to use his hands on the ground. Use his hands on me to stop from falling. So even if I just do this, even if I pull a little bit here, or pull on the back of his head here, he's already putting his hands out. He's already stopping. He doesn't want me to pull him down. He doesn't want me to do what I want. Guys are almost always going to resist once you start to try to break them down or break their posture or pull them down. So once I feel the arms on me, if I feel any weight of his hands on me, what that means is he's giving me the arms. Okay? If I feel him pushing on my chest, if I feel him stretching his arms and trying to keep himself from falling, he's already giving me the arms. So all I'm going to do is just a little head movement. So the two movements that you guys are going to need to develop, which are very, very simple movements to get good at this arm lock, is one is just a little shoulder movement. So I always start off my classes when I do the warm-up. I always start off just taking your shoulders off the ground and being able to move yourself side to side. Okay, this is not only important for the arm lock, but it's important for a lot of other things too, like the head and arm. If I have someone in my guard and they're trying to throw a punch at me, how to move to the side, right? To avoid getting punched and being able to pull them in. So, like for example, if he reaches back to try to punch me with one hand, move to the side, pull him in and set up the head and arm, right? So these are all very little movements, but it's the same thing as slipping a punch. It's the same thing as slipping a punch when you're standing up, right? I always want to move out of the way or change the angle so that he can't hit me. So, of course, the same time I pull too. So if he's committing his weight forward, if he's throwing and if he's putting his weight forward, I'm going to pull him in just to help him out. But so for this arm lock, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my shoulders. Okay. Now, this leg is actually the most important leg for the arm lock. Okay. Everyone thinks it's getting the arm over the head, but actually this leg does almost all the work. Once I move my shoulders, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my legs. This leg, I want to slide up his back and I'm going to bite. So it's very important when this leg comes up, I'm biting across the back. And I want to make sure when I say bite, what I mean is I'm pulling my heel to my butt. Okay? What this does is a couple things. One, it takes him off balance. Okay? But also what it does is it keeps him tight and it prevents him from being able to pull his arm out. So first thing I do is I just move my head a little bit to the side. Just to give me a little bit of an angle. I don't even need to move that much. It's just a tiny little movement to the side. Now, the second movement that I do is just a hip movement. Okay? So I always do this when I warm up. And it's just being able to learn how to move your hip from side to side. Okay? Which, of course, jiu-jitsu is all hip movement, right? So, once I move my head, I only need a tiny little movement. Now what happens is this leg, as this leg slides up his back and bites across, my other leg is already coming around. Okay? So, all I have to do is pull him in a little bit and feel maybe he's pushing off me. Now here. So this leg bites down and the same time that this leg comes over. As long as I'm keeping my knees, my heels tight, pull your arm out, Sean.
No.
Just try. No, it's very difficult for him to pull his arm out if I'm keeping this bite, if I'm tight with my bite. If my legs are not tight, if I'm loose here, pull your arm out. He can pull his elbow out. But as long as my heels are tight, without even breaking his posture, without taking a bounce, try to pull your arm out. Yeah, pull your arm.
Nope.
So that's without even using my hand. So once I go for the arm lock, this leg, what it also does is it stretches him away a little bit. Okay? So what I want is I want him to be light on his knee. So once I lock the arm lock, now stack me, Sean.
No.
So the problem with everyone getting stacked all the time is people go for the arm lock and they do this.
And of course, if the guy's big and strong, he's going to stack you. And from here, of course, I have options to get out of it. I can roll underneath. I can maybe switch out and go underneath and roll over my shoulder and finish the arm lock. But it becomes very difficult. And the other thing too is if punching is involved, I'm going to take a lot of damage. The guy can drop a knee on my face. He can hit me. So I never want to allow the bigger opponent to put weight on me, to be able to put his weight on me. So when I go for the arm move, this leg comes. What I do is I stretch him away a little bit. I keep him away because now, put your weight on me. What I have to do is I have to keep my hip locked. So I do not allow him to break my knee this way. If he breaks my knee, of course, I could try to grab the leg and try to go for a sweep. That problem is if I try to take my leg off the head and go for the sweep, he can sometimes pull his arm out or he can posture up. Then I have to switch and go for something else, which is a waste of energy. I have to waste more of my energy to kind of catch him, to get him. So we want everything we do, when you do something, you want it to work. So, move my head here. Hold on. And basically, if I hold on to his arm, the reason I'm letting go of his arm is because the arm lock is so tight that if I hold on to his arm will break by the time I have my leg around his head. So, I'll just hold on to it real quick. But it's already, before I already put it on, it's already so tight. If I clamp down with my second leg on his arm's already broken. So, and that all has to do with the tightness of the legs. So I move my head. You see, I haven't even put this one down. Once I bite with this one, and so that movement will develop, of course, as you practice it. But the key is keeping your legs. All the arm lock is all based on the legs. Your legs, what you have to think about is your legs, they say, are 7 to 10 times stronger than your arms. So if you're not using your legs, you're basically being inefficient. The legs is basically what controls the arm lock. The hand is just there to glue it to your body so that you can break it. But the legs and the hip and the body does all the work. So that's an arm lock, and I think a few people have seen it done this way, and it's kind of the word is starting to get out kind of how it's done, but those are a lot of little details that really make that arm lock effective. The next thing we're going to go for is a triangle. And everyone's seen the triangle choke. Everyone knows how to kind of do the triangle choke. But how to put pressure and how to really apply it, I haven't seen many people teach. I haven't really seen people explain how to properly make the triangle tight, how to close it up. Okay? So what you guys are going to see is the triangle. When I have someone in a triangle, this is the hole where I have the person. That's the space. Okay? The idea for the triangle is I want to close everything up. I want to make that tight. So the idea is I want to start to bite down and I'm going to start to squeeze my knees together. Okay? A lot of people say, oh, you got to pull down on the head or you got to lift your hips up. I don't actually like lifting my hips up in the triangle and pulling the head down because one, if he's able to push my elbow off his head and I'm lifting my hips, it helps him get posture. And that's one of the ways he can escape. If I'm lifting my hips, if he's able to get his head up and get posture, I just lost my triangle. Okay? So I don't ever kind of lift my hips during the triangle. I don't try to pull the head down and lift my hips. If you do it properly, you can actually finish the triangle without even your hands. Okay? And even with his defense. So the idea for the triangle, and I'll show you guys a transition from the arm lock to the triangle, but once I get the triangle, the idea is all I'm going to do is I just start to squeeze my knees together. And what I want to do is I want to bring him to me. So without even my hands, all I'm doing is pinching my knees together, and I kind of curl myself up into a ball. I kind of bring my knees in towards me, okay, to basically finish. Now, a lot of people think you need this arm across. Even with his arm, wrap your arm around my leg. So what you see is a lot of people defend the triangle like this. Put the arm around. Oh, you're never going to get me now because my arm is on the other side. And then you see guys having to do this to try to pull the arm over, and if I lift my hip up, get your posture. He's already defended my... So as soon as I lift my hip up, it allows him the opportunity to defend. So once I have the triangle here, if I know how to squeeze my knees, he's gonna tap. So it's not even any strength. I don't even need to put any strength into it, and I don't need to pull his head. All I'm doing is pinching my knees together. Right? So let's show, I'll just go over a little transition. He can't really pull his arm out. But let's say I mess up a little bit and he's able to pull his arm out. So now what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to use this leg, and the key is I want to bite across his neck. Okay? A lot of times what you have to do is you have to adjust your angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this leg as I bite across. Now I have a good angle to finish the triangle. From here, all I'm going to do is I just squeeze my knees together. Even if he's got his arm on this side of my body, if I just squeeze my knees a little bit together, it's going to finish, because as you guys see, once I start to pinch my knees together, this hole disappears. Now there's nothing left, right? So that's the concept for finishing the triangle, is just being able to squeeze your knees. And like I said, the legs are so powerful, the legs are so strong, it's very difficult for the guy to resist, even with arms, to resist that movement, because of course the legs are so much stronger than the arms. So just tiny little details of very, very basic techniques, but a lot of people make these techniques so complicated, so complex, like, oh, you got to do this step, and then this step, and this step, and this step to get it to work. And the problem is, if you mess up between any of those steps, you lose whatever you were going for. So that's really the key and the secret to jiu-jitsu, is mastering all the little details. I always tell people the journey from the white belt to the black belt is basically perfecting the basics. Learning all these little hidden details, these little things that make everything work when you go for them, and to make it so that you don't have to use strength, that you don't have to use power, and that they work against anyone, whether the guy's bigger than you or smaller than you, stronger than you or not, that when you go for something, it works. So thank you guys. I want to thank you guys all for participating in the event, and especially thank you everyone that donated to the charity. It's for a great cause. After the charity, we're going to post exactly how much money we were able to raise and what charity it went to. So I also want to thank Sean for hosting it at Hollywood Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and everybody that participated. Of course, we had an amazing lineup of black belts that came out and donated their time to come help. And it was hopefully we had a very, very successful event. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it and learned a lot from it.
Thanks very much, everybody. Now, before we close up, I'd like to introduce the guy that started one of the biggest brick and mortar retail shops and online martial arts, MMA equipment stores in America, probably the globe. It's called On the Mat, and it was originally just a website and a forum and an information site. But Scotty Nelson, come on up. Scotty's he's been behind the scenes. He's been doing the Facebook Q&A. He's also the guy from On the Mat. So onthemat.com, and what's all the gear and stuff?
Onthemat.com, otmfightshops.com, myluckygi.com. Again, thanks to everybody who donated today. Thanks to all the black belts, everyone that came out and spent their time. If you made a donation today, we're going to be sending you an email with a link where you can download the highlights to this event. I also want to say thanks to my roommate, John Salami. He's been behind the camera. John, come out here for a second. He's a black belt. He was going to show some techniques today. He got stuck doing work just like the rest of us. So thank you guys all very much. And look for some more great stuff coming from Henry and everybody else soon.
Now, before we close up, guys, one final thing. I started a company called Christmas 14. We're going to sell merchandise. This will be one of the t-shirts. This will be our first t-shirt. And I actually had it produced through Scotty's company. He did the t-shirt for me. But this is it. The proceeds are going to go to sponsor kids all over the country into a martial arts program. So this is an original piece of artwork designed by an artist friend of mine. I'm going to get a new piece of artwork all the time, every other month, and they're going to be limited edition t-shirts. Like, I'm sure some of you guys recognize this image. It's a pretty famous image, time-life image, but we've reconstructed it in a way that's a little thought-provoking, and it's kind of flipped the coin a little bit. The whole concept is give life. The whole concept of Christmas 14 is, I don't know if you guys know, but there's a story about it on my blog site. My blog site is Shine. untiltomorrow.com, shineuntiltomorrow.com, and this whole story of Christmas 14 is in 1914, World War I. For some magical reason, both sides, the British, the French, the Belgians, and on the other side, the Germans, they all came out of the trenches, and for one glorious day, they all had a soccer game. They exchanged tobacco, chocolate, and whatnot, and played soccer. The next day, under strict orders, they went back to fighting and continued on to the slaughter. But I'd like to harness that one little magical moment that happened in time. So the name of the company is Christmas 14. You can go to Christmas14.com. Again, the proceeds are going to go to sponsor kids into a martial arts program throughout the country. I've got participating academies that are all going to do their part. It's a wonderful opportunity. I know what it's done for my life. I know what it's done for Henry's life. I know what it's done for everybody that's involved in jiu-jitsu and martial arts in general. I know that it's made a huge impact on their life, so I'd like to find a way to give back. So this is the first article of merchandise we have, and that's it. Again, Henry Akins, dynamicsmma.com. Anything you'd like to say, brother?
Nope, just great. Honored to share the mat with all you guys. John Lewis was one of my heroes when I first started.
Yeah.
Henry as well. I love these guys, so thank you, sir.
No, thank you very
It was
much.
awesome. Good to run the camera today, but thanks to everybody that gave in and donated, because it was a great cause. So thanks, Henry, for getting this all started.
And guys, Scotty Nelson from, again, On The Mat and BuiltToFight.com. He's the one that's in charge of the website and everything. So all the proceeds, everybody that donated today is going to go to him. And he's going to cut a big check, and we're going to go to, he'll let you know exactly what we raised and exactly where it's going. But so far, we found a couple of websites on payitforward.com, I believe it is, that are going to the cause, and so it'll be a proud moment for us to write those guys a check. So stay tuned with him, and he'll give you the details. Thanks very much for stopping in. And again, thanks very much to all the black belts that showed up. It was an honor to have them on the mat with us today. And thanks very much, guys. Take care. God bless.